It's being called one of the most anticipated Nintendo titles of the year. Super Mario Odyssey, the upcoming 3D platform game from the Nintendo Switch, is truly changing the way we think about mobile gaming. Hey guys, Justin here with the Leaderboard, and today we're going over some of the reasons why this game has been all the rave since it premiered at E3 in early 2017. So here are 7 facts about Super Mario Odyssey. Insert obligatory, let's go. Classic story, but new characters. Super Mario Odyssey stuck to its roots with its classic save the princess premise, and of course, much like the rest of the game, it's on a much bigger scale. The stakes have been raised now that Bowser has made wedding plans. However, Mario is not alone in this endeavor, as he's made friends with Cappy, a sentient hat spirit whose sister Tiara has also been taken by the evil King Bowser. Cappy and Mario team up to rescue their damsels in distress, but we'll get more in depth on this character later on in the video. As it turns out, Cappy isn't the only new character introduced in Mario Odyssey. There's actually a new set of villains helping Bowser handle his dirty work. Rather than the Koopa Kids setting their sights on Mario, there's now these things called Broodals, a group of bunny wedding planners that want to personally see to it that the wedding goes on without a hitch. Each Broodal will also serve as the main boss for certain levels of the game, which again is a role we've seen the Koopa Kids play before, just another example of Mario going back to its original roots. However, serving as a contrast to the classics, there are also many firsts for the franchise as well. As far as character designs are concerned, we'll see anatomically correct people for the first time in New Donk City. Still does not get old. And that's just one of the many kingdoms featured in the game. There's also a very realistic T-Rex that will be available to lend a hand, or a ride I should say. But you know, we know what you're thinking, the T-Rex is not a realistic Yoshi. It's an unexpected contrast, unlike the realistic citizens of New Donk City. According to the game developers, the intention behind this decision was to invoke the strange feeling of traveling somewhere completely new and foreign. And honestly, looks like a job well done so far. The biggest open world. According to the game's producer Yoshiaki Koizumi, the story was never the main focus of the franchise. The focus was the player's ability to make their own adventure. That may be even more true now than ever before, and in fact, for the first time, Mario takes on the entire world in this globe-trotting adventure. It's definitely the biggest open world map in a Mario game so far, and actually at the time of this video, the kingdoms that have been confirmed are the Wooded Kingdom, the Luncheon Kingdom, Cap Kingdom, Metro Kingdom, Cascade Kingdom, Snow Kingdom, Seaside Kingdom, Lake Kingdom, Mushroom Kingdom, and some sort of tropical kingdom. Mario travels between kingdoms in his Cap Kingdom airship, which resembles a giant steampunk top hat collecting power moons instead of the memorable power stars fans have become accustomed to in the previous games. There's also checkpoints in every kingdom that allow you to fast travel to previous kingdoms that have been visited. Then another wonderful new feature which has never been explored in the franchise before is spendable currency. There are actually 2 types of coins to collect in the game, regular yellow Mario coins and little triangular purple coins. The purple coins represent the kingdom's currency, and every kingdom has their own. The regular coins can be spent anywhere you go, and you'll definitely want to collect both because there are some neat benefits that come with spending your loot, some of which are required. New designs. To elaborate on those aforementioned benefits, each kingdom contains a Crazy Cap shop in which you'll be able to spend your coins on new outfits, collectible souvenirs, and even some swag for the airship. We mentioned briefly that spending your coins is sometimes required. Well, that's because certain areas in the game require a dress code to proceed. Yep, it might sound like a bit of a headache, but honestly, it's a refreshing change to see Mario have so many new looks and also a few throwbacks as well. This also includes a purchasable shirtless version of Mario, which has not only earned Mario its first ever CEROB rating in Japan, which is 12+, but it also has the internet in a tizzy over seeing his nipples for the first time, and oh boy, they're tiny. Along with Mario's fresh new look comes a new look for the game as well. The developers have been priding themselves on the solid 60 frames per second frame rate, which on a mobile device is no easy feat. For this to happen, developers found interesting ways to cut corners, such as rendering distant models in 2D rather than 3D until they become closer, at which point they switch to 3D models. Another clever way developers were able to achieve this frame rate was lowering the rate of those distant models to half the speed. It's kind of similar to the development of Halo 5 for Xbox One, but less distracting given that we never interact with these characters. The The sandbox platforms are rather large scale, often with sections running outside of the edges, such as in New Donk City. There's also a lovely 3D skybox built around the kingdoms with clouds resting just below it, and the combination section appears as a fairly new aesthetic for the franchise and is slightly reminiscent of the original Sonic Adventure game. The Switch is a great console, but the Dreamcast though? That's stuff of legend. But as far as texturing is concerned, a crazy amount of detail went into the surroundings of each level. For instance, many shadow maps and cube maps are employed, giving each kingdom a more realistic, familiar tone. There's also plenty of bonus levels in each kingdom, presenting numerous platform changes for Mario to overcome. A fan-favorite addition to the game is the traditional 2D platforming crossover contained within the walls of certain stages. This allows you to play through the obstacle in the original pixelated Super Mario Bros. Style, and it's another reason why the collectible outfits are so desirable. The pixel art translates in these sections, meaning that if you enter the 2D area in a costume, 2D Mario will be able to wear that costume as well. All new gameplay.
Yoshiaki Koizumi stated that the goal here for developers was to make the fan-favorite 3D Mario games,
cross them with Mario Sunshine, and push them further than any pre-existing Mario game on the market today. The kicker? It's the first mobile game to hit these marks. Many gamers who were graced with the opportunity to play Super Mario Odyssey at 2017's E3 convention, well, they claim to hit the nail on the head. The game feels like a much bigger, better version of previous 3D Mario games, but with many new abilities, controls, and no central overworld hub or definitive direction, which we believe is another first for the franchise. It's hard to believe this style of gaming can be played on the go, and that's exactly what Yoshiaki was going for. Another perk for the Nintendo Switch is the dual controller system with an added motion control functionality. While this may seem a tad complicated at first, the motion controls actually make Mario's movements feel more organic and responsive over time. However, if that's not your style of gaming, then luckily there's the classic button mashing setup as well. It's entirely up to the player. Another exciting feature that was announced is the addition of co-op mode. Since the start of development, a multiplayer function was in the forefront of the developers' minds because the Nintendo Switch has 2 Joy-Cons instead of just 1. This allows a friend to join in on the game anywhere, anytime, and even on the go. Co-op mode enables both players to play cooperatively, with one player controlling Mario and another controlling Cappy. So it's slightly more restricted than adding in another fully playable character, but it definitely helps when it comes to taking out bosses and rescuing the princess. There's a sidekick. Speaking of Cappy, let's talk about some of the additional features that come along with your new sidekick. First off, he doubles as a weapon. Mario can throw Cappy to attack enemies, as well as use him as a makeshift platform for those hard to reach places. Cappy also allows Mario to capture certain enemies and objects if need be, and this includes the ability to possess enemies, but more on that later. Let's discuss how this newfound idea for a buddy adventure got started in the first place.
According to the game director Kenta Motakura, Cappy was a part of the game from the very beginning.
Since Mario's hat has always been an integral part of the franchise, developers decided to focus on new abilities involving the Joy-Con motion controls. Immediately, they decided to incorporate Mario's iconic hat as a defense mechanism to highlight these controls, and thus, Cappy was born. The idea to make the cap its own character came from one of the staff's early prototypes once Nintendo started dabbling with co-op mode. They knew early on that they wanted a buddy to be able to accompany Mario on his mission, and since the newest ability involved Mario throwing his cap, they decided that it would just make sense to make Cappy Mario's new sidekick. You have to admit it, it's a pretty clever solution, and after all, just adding a set of eyes onto a pre-existing cap surely solved the game designers the trouble of incorporating a new character. Plus, it's a pretty exciting new development for Mario as a whole. New abilities and features. Let's jump back to this awesome capture or possession ability brought on by our new friend Cappy. Basically, throwing your hat onto a bad guy or just a passerby, in the case of New Donk City, enables you to temporarily take their form and absorb their abilities. That means that Mario can now become everything from a human of the Metro Kingdom to Bullet Bills, and of course everything else in between. And also, it's not entirely clear of which characters are capturable and which aren't, so a good rule of thumb is if the character already has a hat, it probably can't have another. So it's more than likely that players won't be able to capture other characters wearing hats. Now, when you don't feel like possessing characters, there's new rideable characters as well, outside of Yoshi, such as Jaxi. The Jaxi is a lion-like character found in the Sand Kingdom who is willing to trade rides in exchange for coins. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Yoshi will be involved this time, but only time will tell for sure. Still, there are also several other helpful additions to the kingdoms like the Talkatoo, a hint-giving parrot, and the aptly named Hint Toad, known as the Blue Toad in Super Mario Galaxy. Not to mention the very Nintendo-named Uncle Amiibo, who helps you connect your Amiibo figures, and the surprise return of the very original damsel in distress, Pauline, who, if you didn't know, is actually from the 1981 Donkey Kong arcade game. Apparently, Pauline is now the mayor of New Donk City and a jazz singer, I guess? Though it's been implied that she'll have a bigger connection to the central story as things unfold later on. Another new feature is the removal of lives. Yeah, that's right, I'm just as shocked as you are. There's no more one-up mushrooms. But instead, Nintendo has crafted something new in the form of life-up hearts, which instead of giving you a new life, just restore your health. However, since there are no longer lives to keep track of once you die, you'll lose coins instead, so again, you might want to collect those coins. Otherwise, you'll have to start over at the last checkpoint, and nobody wants that. Surprisingly small file size. So, considering that this game is the biggest open world exploration for the Super Mario gaming franchise, and there's countless new features, abilities, and that amazing attention to detail, look at Mario's mustache. Are you kidding me? Fans were floored when Nintendo released the file size for Odyssey. As it turns out, it's not that big. In fact, it's surprisingly small for a game of this caliber. For the digital version, the Japanese Nintendo store lists the game at only 5.7 gigs, and that's nothing compared to games being released today. To put this into perspective, Halo 2 was 6.98 gigs when it released in 2004 for the original Xbox, and that was 13 years ago. Somehow, someway, Nintendo managed to make the new 3D platformer a whopping 1.2 gigs smaller. And that's because when it comes to file compression, clearly there's no more efficient company in the business than Nintendo. Other first-party games on Switch are also pretty small, with ARMS coming in at only 2.2 gigs and Splatoon 2 at 3.1 gigs. And even if we look back a little bit further, the last 3D Mario game for a home console, Super Mario 3D World, was only 1.7 gigs on the Wii U. Never forget the Wii U. And still, that's pretty small for 2013. Again, Halo 2 was 4 times the size and released 9 years prior. When you look at other games developed by outside parties, the size is still multiplied. Heck, even NBA 2K18 requires 5 gigs for its save file, and there's only a fraction of the features and gameplay in comparison. A fraction, but however, Super Mario Odyssey is only 720p, but honestly, HD really isn't the main focus when you're dealing with mobile platforms, unless you're the PS Vita. Rest in peace, the Vita. This video is just filled with failed consoles. Anyway, Nintendo was still able to provide us with the fluidity and detail that comes with 60 FPS, so clearly, Nintendo has shown us that optimization is key, and if you want the benefits that come with said optimization, then you definitely want to check out Super Mario Odyssey that hits shelves October 27th of this year. There you have it, gamers. I'm Justin with the Leaderboard, and thanks for watching 7 facts about Super Mario Odyssey. Have you played it yet? What's your favorite new feature? Comment down below and let us know. Don't forget to click the little bell icon to become part of the notification squad, and if you like getting more from your games, subscribe to the Leaderboard, your home for video game facts.